Hey everybody, it's John Stauffer, and I'm here to bring you a tech tip from MCAM Northwest. Today I want to talk about chaining tolerance and also how to blend curves together to get some smoother results. You know, we've probably all been there. You get a model in from engineering and at first it looks really nice. But when you look a little bit closer and you're doing some of your chaining, you find that some of these edges don't really line up and we're having some problems. Luckily, there's a couple of ways that we can get around this in Mastercam to give us a great result. So let's take a look. So in this example, what I want to do is cut this radius face here. I've got two of them actually going between this area and this area. Now I'm going to approach this with a multi-axis style toolpath, but this really applies for all types of toolpathing. This just works well in this particular instance to really show it off. Now, let's see, I want to basically cut this as a morph in this case. So I'm going to go up to my toolpaths tab and grab a unified. I'm going to use this 1/8 ball end mill. In my cut pattern, I'm going to mark these two faces as my machining geometry, and then I'm going to set up a couple of curves. I want this to be a morph style, so let's set that to morph. Then I'm going to use the selector here to make my chain selections. Now the top one's pretty easy because it's pretty clean, so I'll just choose like that. Looks good. The bottom one is a little rougher. If I go to select it, we'll notice that there's actually this little portion here from the original engineering where we kind of have that quick step down. Well, we'll try it anyways. I'll go ahead and select here and then go ahead and just move that chain on, then green check. I'm going to set this to a 10,000th step over, and I'm going to leave pretty much everything else at defaults. I just want to go into collision control and make sure that this is set to retract along surface normal in case there's any problems. This should at least give me a rough toolpath. So, at first glance this might look okay, but when I look a little closer, I'm not actually very happy with it. I don't really mind these spots where it looks low, this is going to be fine, but ultimately, when I look way down here, this is the problem. You can see that towards the bottom of this toolpath we have these sharp jutting corners, and that's really not going to look good in my finished part. I want everything to look more like what I see at the top, where it's really smoothed out. So, how do I deal with this? Well, there's a couple ways we could potentially deal with it. In this instance, what I would really like to do is use other geometry to drive this toolpath rather than just the model itself. So to do that, I'm going to go to my levels, and here I already have a level number 2 for some wireframe. I'm going to go to my wireframe tab and use curve one edge to get the baseline of what this shape looks like, but I don't really care about that little vertical section. I'll leave that out. I'll green check here. Now I need to be able to blend those two pieces together very smoothly. And for this, I would use my spline controls and I would use spline blended. This tool allows me to select a couple of curves and then create a blended spline between them. So I'll select my first curve here. Then I need to pick a point on this curve where the spline will be tangent to. There's no perfect answer for this. You might just need to play around with it and get used to using the tool. In this case, I'm going to set it right about here. I think that'll work well. Now I need to select the same thing on curve 2. So I'll pick curve 2 and then pick a point. I'm going to pick about a roughly equivalent length. I think that looks pretty good. This creates a new piece of blended spline geometry that is tangent to both of these, making a really smooth transition. Beautiful. Let's green check. Now what I can do is in my toolpath, I'll go into my parameters, and instead of using that solid as my guide, I'm going to use the wireframe instead. So I'll clear that selection, grab a new one, switch to wireframe mode, and then go ahead and click here, and that beautifully connects all the way through. If I regenerate this, we get our new toolpath, and if I zoom in, this toolpath is way smoother than it was before, just by working off that new geometry. Now there's another thing we can do as well. When we go back in here, let's go ahead and deselect that wireframe one more time. Now when I go to make my solid selection, instead of actually picking on all of those pieces like I was before, what I want to do is basically jump the gap. This is a little more useful when we're dealing with a situation where you see what looks like an intersection between your edges, but when you zoom in close, they don't intersect quite right, and you really need to kind of jump a small gap. If you're in that situation, the thing to do is to go into your chaining settings up here And then down towards the bottom, we have a field here labeled chaining tolerance. By default, this is set to 1/10 of a thousandth for inches. And that works great in most scenarios, but I want this a little bit wider for some scenarios. For something like this, I might go up as high as 10 thousandths, but in most cases, I've seen 2 do a pretty good job. Let's green check here. Now, using my solid chaining, I should be able to, simply using my edge selection method here, click, and you'll see that it jumps the gap automatically. It says this could be my next point to continue on from. This is where the branch is. So increasing that tolerance allows us to essentially jump across to the next section. Now with this toolpath, go ahead and let that generate. We zoom in. We're going to see that it doesn't do as much to alleviate this bump that we see in the toolpath. But in situations where we're running a different toolpath that isn't as prone to this kind of notching, this can actually be great just for getting through areas where intersections don't quite meet up correctly. Well, I hope that was helpful for you. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. But more importantly, we want to hear back from you. What do you want to learn about Mastercam? Leave us a comment below and tell us what you want to learn. If you'd like to talk with us more about Mastercam 2024 for your shop, go ahead and give us a call at 503-653-5332 or email us at sales@mcamnw.com. Thanks. Have a good day.